ॐ सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयम् नमामि भगवत्पादम् शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यम् केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् नमामि चिन्मयं देवम् सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। Hari Om. We are trying to study Antaradhikarana of Shankara Bhashya on Brahma Sutra Adhyaya Prathama. We all have heard a statement that as you think, you shall become. Apparently, we take this as a common saying and do not think deeply about it. Bhagavad Gita also mentions it, and when Bhagavad Gita mentions a particular thing, it gets or gains a special significance. What you think, you shall become. The fundamental understanding of this particular statement is, as long as I am thinking, even if that thinking contemplates upon imagination, there is a strong possibility of becoming what you are thinking, even though it is imaginary at the current state of affairs. The ability to convert what you think into what you intend to be is a process of sadhana where your own thoughts shall be converted into an inevitable force that shall take the shape, the name, the power, the Shakti of what you are thinking. And you shall experience that state. Mind well, world is nothing but experiential state. If you cannot experience anything, you are not in the world. In the deep sleep, you do not experience anything, but you do experience the sleep, because after waking up, you say, I experienced the sleep. That means you were even experiencing the sleep in the sleep. So all that is experienced, anubhava janya, all that can be experienced has to be in this world. In other words, world is nothing else but a plane of experience. Experiential plane is world. The commonest Sanskrit word used for experiential world is a lok. The experiences can vary depending upon the plane of experience. Unfortunately, our plane of experience is restricted to human plane of experience. And based on our experience, our transaction happens. My plane of experience is divided into tripartite division of time. So I'm able to talk about past, present, and future because as a human plane of experience, I'm able to experience trikala. The animals cannot experience trikala because their plane of experience is lower plane of experience. The loka Vishwa, the experiential world of the lower yoni is of a lower nature, while that of a higher yoni is of a higher nature. A plant's experiential plane is different than an animal's experiential plane is different than the human plane of experience. And amongst human again, the plane of experience shall again differ depending upon the vikas, the development, or the exploitation of potency of the buddhi. In other words, every single constituent of the universe has been endowed with an apparatus to express the consciousness. Higher the development of the apparatus, larger will be the possibility of catching or holding the consciousness. As far as human beings are concerned, they have a developed antakarana, which is nothing else but the instrument or the prism or the crystal that brings in the light of the consciousness. But not all prisms are same, not all crystals are same. A muddy crystal cannot harbor the light, nor can it disperse the light. Lesser the absorption of light, lesser the dispersion of the light, lesser is the enlightenment. So presence of size of crystal or the quality of crystal decides the amount of dispersion of light that can happen of the consciousness. Some individuals, some human beings, some Mahatmas, by sheer virtue of their ability to polish the crystal and enlarge the capacity to disperse the light, they're able to hold more and more quantum of consciousness and disperse more and more light. More the light that is thrown from the antakarana of the consciousness, more new things come to the light. And new things coming to the light means newer experiences, because at the end, it is only and only experience. The higher, the lower, but experience alone. A yogi or a sadhaka, by sheer virtue of its cleanliness of the crystal called chitta shuddhi, is able to hold higher consciousness and disperse the light in a focused manner, leading to widening of the knowledge. And every knowledge is an experience. Larger the breadth of the knowledge, larger the bandwidth of the knowledge, the person is more knowledgeable, person is having higher knowledge. Having higher knowledge means moving from the lower loka to the higher loka, from a lower experiential world to the higher experiential world. And based on categorization or classification of these experiences, different lokas have been imagined, which are called Saptaloka. Saptaloka is not a three-dimensional structure or apparatus that is on the top of the earth somewhere. It may be depicted so for the sake of understanding. However, it is nothing else but the experiential state of the mind as the consciousness or the effulgence of the constant consciousness is becoming more and more. That being the case, the primal mantra called Gayatri mantra is of so much significance simply because it directly propitiates the Savitru to give us the higher and higher effulgence of the consciousness called Bhargo Devasya Dhimai. And such exalted people, such sadhakas, such yogis who are having higher and higher consciousness and dispersion thereof are referred as enlightened. And enlightened in Sanskrit means Deva. The Deva Devatas are nothing else but the refined Antakarana Yukta Jivas. Devatas are Jivas. The only difference between Devata and an ordinary mortal like us is the ability of the Antakarana to have its in full expansion with the ability to hold the effulgence of the light at the maximum. And when the consciousness in a particular upadhi or jiva is of a higher type, the functionality of such an individual, functionality of such a jiva is at a higher level. You and me, with the kind of consciousness that we have in our buddhi, being limited, we are trying to function in this transactional world in a minimal manner. Perhaps the maximum effulgence that we can exhibit through our buddhi in this mortal plane is a Nobel laureate, a researcher, a thinker. However, those who have truly expanded their consciousness into higher and higher lokas or higher and higher levels of consciousness, they come to occupy higher functionalities. A function of a Vayu Devata, a function of a Agni Devata is far higher and bigger because of its universality of application. Agni has a dahakata, burning property, and that remains an universal property for all times to come at all the places, irrespective of who is using it, how he is using it, meaning thereby a special karya of consciousness in the form of a dahakata or the burning is exhibited by an exalted consciousness which is collectively referred as Agni Devata. Similarly, Vayu Devata. That means all those who exhibit higher functionalities are nothing else but the Jivas of exalted state having higher consciousness and higher dispersion of the consciousness through them. Then who is the one who is sustaining the life on the earth for billions of years? It is the sun. So what is sun in that case? The sun is nothing else but the higher level of consciousness that is dispersing the consciousness into the functionality of lightening this world and making this earth warm enough for the entire mankind to sustain for billions of years. The functionality has gone high up. Naturally, the consciousness in sun is far more denser, higher than any one of us. This process of increasing the quantum of consciousness and increasing its width and depth, or the bandwidth in the antakarana, is the process of sadhana, which a yogi undertakes and starts conquering the lokas one by one, one by one. Higher and higher experiences are brought into the picture. The Bhutakala, which has a limited aspect as far as our mind is concerned, as far as our antakarna is concerned, because beyond our current birth, we cannot remember anything of the past. However, the yogi that has mastered the holding of consciousness and has exalted itself to the higher level, for him the light of consciousness now starts spreading on the past as well as the future. So he comes to know the past and the future of not only him but of everyone around, and we call it as a trikala siddhi. It's a siddhi for us, it's a miracle for us, because we cannot do it, because we are restricted by space and time, and the space and time is expanded by every act of concentration. Act of concentration means bringing the consciousness of the effulgence more and more into the buddhi. When more consciousness flows inside me meaning my antakarana expands to hold the effulgence of consciousness. Naturally, my ability to deal with space and time increases. The larger and larger canvas of time comes within the embrace of myself. Larger and larger space comes within the embrace of myself. And this embrace of space and time gives me the knowledge of each and every individual, each and every morsel in that expanse that I have conquered as of now. I'm completely inept to understand right now what is happening in America or Australia, simply because my consciousness cannot expand to the space and time to transcend these two planes or two continents which I just spoke about. However, for a yogi, by sheer dint of effulgence of consciousness, the space and time extends and widens to cover the entire earth. And that is why not only what is happening in America and Australia, but also in Antarctica as well as in the space, also in the Tara Vyuha Jnanam, all the stars and the black holes, what is precisely happening there is known to me here. This particular process of expanding consciousness through sadhana then creates higher consciousness, higher effulgence, higher knowledge, and such a person no more remains the jiva but becomes a vibhuti. A vibhuti of the Lord, the Ishvara, who is a sarva vibhuti, the Ishvara being consciousness epitome. His consciousness is held by different constituents of this universe in different proportions depending upon their ability to hold the consciousness. Those who have ability to hold large amount of consciousness are called vibhutis. And that is why Lord in Bhagavad Gita says, Arjuna, wherever you see a vibhuti, recognize that as mine. Mine meaning it is my consciousness that is being exhibited there in an exalted form. So what is a sun? Sun is an exalted form of consciousness. And how do we recognize it? An exalted form of consciousness has much higher usage, functionality. And for a larger functionality, you should have larger quantum of time. How long does the sun last? Billions of years. That means the time has expanded to accommodate that particular consciousness. Larger the time, larger the space, larger the functionality, exalted is the consciousness. Why is this discussion is now brought into the picture? What is the reason? What is the purpose of this discussion? The purpose is such exalted consciousness is discussed time and again in the Upanishads. So when somebody refers to sun in Upanishad, when somebody refers to sun in Upanishad, is he referring to an exalted soul, an exalted and higher up jiva, or the reference is to Parabrahma? Because Upanishads are replete with the statements that, oh, he is the sun, he is the shining one, he is the prana, he is the akasha. Now, prana, akasha, surya, these are vibhutis. What is a vibhuti? Exalted consciousness, higher functionality, higher crossover as far as space and time is concerned. And based on the level of expansion of effulgence of consciousness, hierarchical vibhutis can be traced back, and that is why in Taittiriya Upanishad, the statement says, Akashat Vayu, Vayur Agnihi, Agnihi, Agnit Jalah, Apa, Apat Prithvihi. Each of these great Panchamahabhutas are born from previous one. Since Akash being the first one, Akash is the highest vibhuti. That is the reason why it is so expansive. How much is the expanse of space as far as Akash is concerned? That is the highest expanse of space. That's why it is called Asamantat Kashayati iti Akashaha. It's the first element, so it is the largest. That means in terms of space, this is the maximum of creation in the created world. How about time? The time is within the space. In fact, when did the time start? Time started when space was born. Prior to the birth of space, there was nothing, there was a bindu. If one reads about Shaiva Siddhanta or Gorakshanath Siddha Siddhanta Paddhati, the highest therein described is bindu, because bindu is one which doesn't have space and dimension. There is no dimension, there is no time. It is utterly impossible for us to imagine that. Because when we say a bindu or a point, the point does include space and distance. And when distance is there, that means there are 2 points. And when 2 points are there, there is a time. Time cannot be born with single point. Time is born only when 2 points are there in space. Think about this. That being the case, Akasha seems to be the highest of the vibhuti because it lasts longest of the time. That means this is the maximum expansion of the time, and it is the maximum expansion of the space. So it is the highest vibhuti. though it is the highest vibhuti, still it is bound by space and time. That which is not bound by space and time is the pure consciousness, which is not expressed through any instrument, but is present by itself. Because when the world is not existing, Akasha doesn't exist. Till the existence of the Vishwa, Akasha seems to be the highest parisima of consciousness expansion. That is why the Brahma or Parabrahma is described as Vyoma-vat. Vyoma-vat means Akasha-vat. Akasha-vat means similar to Akash, but not Akash. Because beyond Akasha is Parabrahma. Beyond space and time is Parabrahma. However, how do we approach that Parabrahma which is beyond space and time? Because I am caught in space and time, my limited buddhi, my intellect, howsoever developed it may be, it cannot contemplate or do upasana unless I think in space and time. Somebody who is bound in space and time cannot worship somebody who is not bound in space and time. It is utterly impossible. If your eyesight can see up to the mountain, then you can see only up to the mountain. You and me cannot see Himalayas right now because it is beyond our vision. We are in Middle East. Why? Because my sight is limited. I don't have unlimited sight to go right up to Himalayas or Alps or the or Andes to see the mountains there. That means I have santata, restricted intellect. So even if my restricted intellect is broken into highest expansion, maximum that I can reach is up to Akash and not beyond that. So to understand which is not bound by space and time, while working in space and time, is utterly impossible. That being the case, the methodology to approach it goes through the upasana of what is available within space and time. You being bound in space and time, you can do your upasana in space and time, whereby you expand the ability to stretch the space and time by higher and higher effulgence of consciousness coming into your holding apparatus called buddhi, so that you can at least reach the highest expanse of space and time. Once you reach the highest expansion, then to go beyond the space and time, there is an expert sitting there who is already gone beyond space and time and who knows how to go beyond space and time, because he is the only one who can actually help you, because your personal effort have already reached the zenith of the limit. That institution, that person who is sitting there, who is actually beyond space and time and knows how to go beyond space and time, is the Sadguru. If this is the process of moving forward, then Upanishads are replete with statements about Brahma. Upanishad or Vedanta speaks only about the ultimate reality or Parabrahma. But while uttering those statements, the Rishis have mentioned sometimes certain statements which confuse us. Some of the statements are that Surya and the Akshi Purusha, the Purusha in my eye, the Purusha in the sun is the ultimate reality. The question now comes that if sun is the ultimate reality, that is what they are saying. How can sun be ultimate reality when we know sun is one of the part of the universe? So are they, that means the Rishis in the Vedanta, referring to the sun as Parabrahma or as a Jiva? And Jiva means not the mortals like us. Jiva also means Devata. And the way of approaching this higher consciousness or becoming Devata from the Jiva and from Devata onwards to expansion of consciousness and then ultimately reaching the Nirguna Nirakara Parabrahma, the process of moving higher and higher and higher. That is why in Chandogya Upanishada, Parabrahma is referred as Udgit. Udgit. Ud means to go up and up and up and up. The one who sings the ballad of moving upwards is called Udgatra. Flight to higher consciousness. In the context of the same, the Upanishads, which are considered to be the only source of knowledge of Parabrahma, do mention a Rucha in Chandogya Upanishada, which says that inside the orb of the sun, there is a bright figure with bright golden beard, golden skin and golden nails, Hiranya Purusha. And so the same Purusha is there inside the eye in the form of Akshi Purusha. That you are. So are they talking about a Jiva who has done a lot of contemplation and has reached or become the Surya as an exalted Jiva or Vibhuti? Or they are talking of the Surya and the Akshi Purusha or the Purusha in the eye as Parabrahma? To remove this confusion, Antaradhikarana comes. And to understand this Antaradhikarana, we must understand something more. And that something more is why the Upanishads, the Rishis are talking about Surya, Akshi Purusha, Prana being Brahma, Vayu being Brahma, Akasha being Brahma, although these are all Panchamahabhutas. Vayu is Panchamahabhuta, Agni is Panchamahabhuta, Prana is Vikar of the Vayu, not even Panchamahabhuta, it is a Vikar of the Vayu. And still they are referring to this as Parabrahma. To avoid this confusion and have clarity, precisely what the Rishis are hinting at is the function of Brahma Sutra. Taking each passage, whichever Upanishad it is lying. Currently, the study is going on the Chandogya Upanishad. Wherever there is a doubt arising in Upanishad, Brahma Sutra is there to give the explanation and the clarity. So the clarity right now given in Antaradhikarani is about whether the sun, Surya Purusha, Aditya Purusha, or the similar sun in my eye called Akshi Purusha, are these references to Parabrahma or are these references to Jiva? Now, whether these are references to Parabrahma, let us keep it aside for some time. First of all, let us understand how the Surya can be the Jiva, how the Akshi Purusha can be the Jiva, because Jiva is what we understand ourselves as a small entity. That is where we need to understand those of us who have conquered the Chitta Shuddhi and have developed the ability to do the upasana. What is upasana? With full concentration, focusing on single thought. And what was the beginning of today's session? What did we learn? Whatever you think or imagine, you shall be. So the one who has completed Chitta Shuddhi or is a Sadhana Chatushta Sampanna, when such a person sits for upasana, dhyana, meditation, and is meditating upon a thought, then that thought will be realized in practice, in actuality. And such thought can be Surya Devata. So those who do upasana on Surya Devata, upasana on prana, upasana on Vayu, upasana on Prithvi, because there are so many things where you can do your upasana upon. So there are two types of upasanas that we need to understand. We can either do the upasana of the higher vibhuti inside our body. In other words, you implant the greatest of the great inside your organs. Implant the sun in your eye and call it Akshi Purusha. The sun in the eye. You can definitely imagine that. And then focus and meditate upon it. You will realize, actualize that particular status. What would that mean? Would that mean that you will lose your body and become sun? No. In the same body, you can have as much effulgence of consciousness as sun. Surya Devata Vat. And what does Surya Devata see? Everything in this universe or whatever that expansion allows it to do. So Surya knows everything because of its light everywhere on the earth, on the planets or whatever. Same kind of functionality will come to that particular sadhaka. Everything will get enlightened. He would know everything. Why? Because now he's into higher and exalted consciousness state. So the upasana can be either by taking the thought or an object of higher consciousness from the world, from the Vishwa, or implanting the same inside himself. When he implants it inside himself, it is called Adhyatmik Upasana. When it is implanted, it is taken from outside, it is called Adhidaivika Upasana. So Saguna Brahma can be done upasana with. Saguna Brahma is upasya. Nirguna Brahma is not upasya. Why? Because Saguna Brahma being into some particular dimension within the space and time, it can be comprehended by the intellect. Something that is beyond space and time cannot be comprehended by the intellect. So the one who is in space and time cannot contemplate on something which is beyond space and time. Water has sapidity. Fire has burning power. Can water have burning power and fire has sapidity? No, it is beyond it. It is not existing there. It is existing in sapidity, is existing in water. Fire power is existing in Agni. Those two being completely different, they can never be in each other. Similarly, the one who is within time and space cannot contemplate or meditate on something which is beyond time and space unless he has reached a stage where he can do so. This is the essence of the world that is given by the Maharaj. Nirgunache bheti alo saguna sange. I came to meet the Nirguna with the help of Saguna. थारा रंग महल में अजीब शहर में आजा रे हंसा बाई, निर्गुण राजा ने सिरगुण सेज सजाई. The way to reach Nirguna is through Saguna, of which the Saguna Brahma Upasana is of two types, the Adhyatmic and the Adhidaivik. The Adhidaivik Upasana gives to 7 attributes. Lakshana, the one who is meditating on Saguna Brahma, he gets 7 attributes. What are those attributes? The first is called Aditya Purushatvam. What is Aditya Purushatvam? The person exalts its own consciousness to the level of solar orb. So he gets status same as sun. Hiranya Garbhatvam is the second one. What is Hiranya Garbhatvam? The nature. What is our, how do we describe ourselves? A white or a black or a brown person of a 5 and a 6 feet height and having 2 hands, we have a Rupa description. Rupa Varnanam of us is possible. Rupa Varnanam of tree is possible. So Rupa Varnanam, because everything that has a name and Rupa is within this particular universe. So everything that is in universe, may it be even the sun, it must have Rupa and Nama. Nama is Aditya, we already know that. But what is the Rupam? The Rupam that is known to us of Aditya is that which is constantly giving light. And it is circular or maybe looks like a disc. This is our description with our intellect. The one who has exalted himself to the level of Aditya, he sees Aditya in the form of Hiranya Garbha. And Hiranya Garbhatvam here means golden colored with golden skin and golden nails. In Upasana of Adidaiva, the Surya is meditated upon as Nama Rupa, the Rupa is of Hiranya Garbhatva. So the meditator gets exalted and becomes the Hiranya Garbha of the Aditya, which is golden colored. Also, he comes to know, because of the sun, how shall be the sun, how shall be the eyes of the world. My eye, I know because I see it in the mirror. If my Shariram has an eye, the Indriya for the vision, the eye of the universe, the one who is able to see the whole universe, that eye, that Aksha, also becomes possible for the one who has done Adhidaivata Upasana, and that is his third attribute called Pundarikakshatvam. The lotus eyes. When Krishna's eyes are described as a Kamala Lochana, it is not only with the beauty that is described in the human form. It is described with the expanse of consciousness that resides in that particular body, the eye of the world that is able to see everything at once. That eye, because again it is a Upadhi, has a Rupa and has a Nama. Pundarika is the Nama, Pundarikaksha, the eye of the Almighty, the Vibhuti, which is of the lotus nature, Kamala Nainatvam. The fourth attribute is Urdhatvam. What is Urdhatvam? Because of exalted consciousness, all the higher lokas get delineated and lighted. The Swargaloka automatically is opened for him. He can experience the Swargaloka sitting here. Janaha, Tapaha, Mahaha, Satyaha, all the lokas. Lokas means experiential state. That means the sadhaka experience higher and higher lokas, higher and higher experiences, where the ability to do the things is far more and wider because the space and time has expanded. So urdhatvam is also a criteria. Up to these four attributes, which one? Aditya Purushatvam, Hiranya Garbhatvam, Pundarikakshatvam, and Urdhatvam. These are possible for all the jivas provided they undertake proper kind of sadhana. However, if the sadhana continues beyond this point, then additional three attributes come, and those three attributes throw the person from the exalted consciousness into consciousness itself, from the Saguna Brahma into Nirguna Brahma itself. What are those three attributes? Sarva Paparahitvam. In Chandogya Upanishad, this particular rupa is called Udh. Udha means beyond all papam. Sarva papa rahitvam is only possible for Parabrahma, nobody else. First four attributes, when somebody gets into different lokas, they become Deva. So Deva, Devata, although they are exalted conscious state, they are still jivas, they still stay in the Vishwa, they cannot leave Vishwa, they will be there as long as the Vishwa is there, and that is why they are not sarva papa rahitvam. Deva Devatas are not without papam. What kind of papam are they doing then? How can Deva Devata be papi? It shocks us. How can Deva Devata be papi? Deva Devatas are papi in a different way. All the Devas and Devatas, present and the future, is Nishkama karma, so there are no vasanas produced or no karma phalam applicable to them. Whatever functionalities the Deva and Devatas do, they do not get any phalam out of it. That is why they do not have any iota of papam to them as far as their present and future is concerned. However, referring back to the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, those karmana gahano gati, some of the karmas of the devas of yester births are still lurking somewhere in the form of vasana. That 1%, 0.5% microscopic percentage still remains with the Devata. That is the reason Devatas are condemned to be in this world. They are not out of the world. Some of these fundamentals may shock us in our faith, but we are students of Brahma Sutra. What we are discussing is philosophy. What we are talking about is reasoning. What we are talking about, experiential dissection of the experiences of the Rishis of Upanishads. If Ishvara is considered mithya, where is the question of Deva Devatas not being called papi? But they are not as papi as we are, but they do have a trace of papam in them. That is why the first four attributes can be to them. A Deva Devata can be Sarvajna, but not Trikalatit. Within the Kal, they know everything. But beyond Kal, they don't know anything. That is the reason why Yogi reaches beyond the Kal. That is why Devatas also are worshipping yogis. Dhanavasthita yadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino tasya anta na viduhu. They cannot understand Sura Suragana. Devas cannot understand what state yogi is. Do we understand now where Vivekananda was? Where Gurudeva is? beyond the devatas. The pity is we do not even know where our rishis are, how exalted they are, where they are. So the jiva can have only 4 attributes. The next 3 attributes are for the one who have gone beyond the jiva status, beyond devata, those who have reached the parabrahma status. One is sarva papa rahitvam, which the Chandogya Upanishad refers to as udha. Sarvagatvam. Sarvagatvam meaning Vishwarupam or Virata Rupam. A devata, howsoever exalted it may be, it will have not all the quantum of the consciousness. So devata may preside on some major chunk of consciousness. That is the reason all the Vayu is presided by Vayu Devata, Pavana. All the Agni aspect by Agni Devata, higher Devata, agree? All the destruction by Shiva. All the creation by Brahma. But Brahma, although he is looking after the creation, is presiding over the consciousness that deals with the creation. There is maintenance also, destruction. So sustenance and destruction is beyond the scope of Brahma. So that means it is sectional superiority. While Parabrahma has in toto superiority. Sarvagatvam. And the last is Sarva Vibhutimatvam. Sarva Vibhutimatvam. All the glories in this world are his. Why? Because it is his part that is Himalaya, the glory, the Vibhuti. It is his part that is the sun. Because the sun that we know is the sun for ourselves. There are millions of suns there for whom we don't know. He, the Parabrahma, has his consciousness distributed depending upon the ability to hold the consciousness. So although the vibhutis are holding higher consciousness or a quantum of consciousness is larger, still it is a quantum. It is a part of the consciousness, not the consciousness in toto. So Adhidevata Upasana, one who is doing, initially he gets these 4 attributes. So he becomes Aditya Purushatvam, Hiranya Garbhatvam, Pundarikakshatvam, Urdhatvam. That is why saintly people, when they are describing, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was describing Lord Krishna, when Tukaram Maharaj was talking about Vithala, when Dhaneshwar Maharaj was talking about Vithala, they were not talking about the way you and me talk, like, it has 2 hands, it has no. They were seeing the Rupa of this particular Ishta Devata in its the highest exalted conscious state. That is why what they said about those Devatas has today become Sutra and Mantra for us. Mahalakshmi Stotram, Durgashtakam, Rudra Mantram. Rigveda has Rudra Mantram. Why we can't have that is because that is not a description done by a small Santa Buddhi like you and me, or the poet and poetesses that are there around here. This is done by a very high level of consciousness, where the Buddhi has expanded to hold the higher level of consciousness. In that higher consciousness state, the way these saintly people or the realized souls see the Devatas, and then they describe it in their manner. That is why the description of the sun, which is talking about Hiranyagarbha with a man with a golden beard, we think it is some kind of a funny description. No. It is how it is felt or realized or anubhuti at the level when one reaches there. And the question that is being discussed is whether that description is of Parabrahma or it is of an exalted state. Is this Rishi talking about he's going and becoming Surya and he's describing himself how the Surya is, how Surya Devata is because he himself has become Surya Devata? Or he's hinting at Parabrahma? That is the fundamental Shanka or the doubt for which this Antaragadhikarana is coming. And that is why Purva Paksha is saying this is nothing else but a Rishi who has meditated constantly and has reached the solar orb, has become the solar Devata, Surya Devata. He is describing about it. That I am Hiranyagarbha, I am having golden beard, etc. is a description of Upadhi. Higher Upadhi, but Upadhi, not Parabrahma. It is description of a Jiva, exalted Jiva. The Jiva that has gone up in consciousness. It is not the description of Parabrahma. However, the Brahma Sutra and the Siddhanta Paksha or the Shankaracharya says, no. This is the description of Parabrahma only. Then the Purva Paksha asks, when it is clearly said that it is Akshi Purusha, the Purusha in the eye, or the Aditya Purusha, it is directly talking about a very restricted small thing. Sun is one part of the universe. Parabrahma is without limits. How you can say then they're talking about Parabrahma when they're talking about only one part? A part cannot be the whole. Purva Paksha is putting its own point. Second, it says, look, they're describing it as why a golden beard and a golden skin and everything. That means Roop they're describing. And Parabrahma has no Roop. How can it be then? Parabrahma? No, they're referring to Sun only. S-U-N, Sun, Surya, not Parabrahma. Purva Paksha is strong in the opposition. Third thing they say that it is limited. Surya is limited. Surya is not the entire universe. It's one part. And Parabrahma is unlimited. So this is not a reference to Parabrahma. This is a reference to exalted or higher Jiva. Then again, the next arguments from Purva Paksha comes. If he is Akshi Purusha, that means he is in the eye. So who is the support or Adhar for this? The eye is the Adhar for the Akshi Purusha. Who is the Adhar for the Aditya Purush? Aditya is the Adhar. In the Surya, he is there. But Parabrahma is Niradhar. In fact, Parabrahma is Adhar of everybody. And that Parabrahma is in the Adhar of Aditya or in the Adhar of Aksha or I. How that is possible? The one who is Adhar or support of all the things in this world is taking shelter in the sun or shelter in the eye. That is not possible. It is contrary. It contradicts the Parabrahma. So it is not the description of Parabrahma. It is very simple. Some rishis, while doing the dhanam, they really went higher up in the consciousness and became and tested or became or got the experience of sun, and that they are describing as this particular Chandogya Upanishad is describing the same state. It is not talking about Parabrahma. So far, so good for the Purva Paksha. In order to refute that, the Siddhanta Paksha comes with 20 and 21st Sutra of Brahma Sutra. The Siddhanta Paksha is what we will be seeing into the next session. Then when this is explained properly by the Siddhanta Paksha, the Purva Paksha is now going to come and catch Akasha. Reference to the Akasha. Is it Parabrahma or is it to the Mahapancha Mahabhuta? Then they are going to come and talk about reference to Prana. Is the reference to the Prana in Upanishada, is the Prana is referred as Parabrahma or Prana is referred as this Prana that we know, Pancha Prana? Because Upanishads being the only way to realize the ultimate truth, clarity has to be there. And that is why, to bring the clarity, to avoid the confusion, having samanvaya, tattu samanvayat, Brahma Sutras are being discussed, being commented by Shankaracharya. Those comments were also difficult to understand. So Vachaspati Mishra wrote Bhamati on that. That Bhamati was very difficult to understand. So somebody wrote Tika on that, because this is where the intellectual frontier needs to be widened to the best possible extent. That is why this grantha is not an easy grantha to digest. Nirgranthikaran of this particular grantha requires Nirgranthikaran of this grantha requires stretch on the intellectual capacity of everyone, but that is what Brahma Sutra Abhyasam is, and that is the reason only very few select people who have ardent desire to know it shall strive hard against their own pratibandha. And that is the reason why early in the morning at 5:30 we try and struggle out to make out the meaning of this. But the result of this particular Brahma Sutra study will be an absolute clarity about the sadhana, because while studying the Brahma Sutra itself, when we stretch our intellectual frontiers, we are bringing in Sattva Guna in us, because understanding Brahma Sutra and its complexity itself means it requires Sattva Guna. So every time Sattva Guna gets exalted, more and more understanding of such difficult scriptures come within the ambit of understanding. So let us pray to the same Lord who gives us this ambit of understanding to understand Brahma Sutra more and more. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Any questions, please?
Hari Om, Sanjay ji. Just to check, this Shiva is often referred to you as the Adi Yogi. So is he, and you were talking about people who have gone beyond the Devatas. So where is he? Is he, Devata, or is he, beyond that state of, someone who has realized Brahman?
What happens is, when the son of a very rich and famous person does something very nice, he is referred to as somebody's son, although he has his own name. Shiva, as an Adi Yogi, is Nirguna Nirakara Brahma. But Shiva in a Saguna form then becomes the same destroyer that we refer to. So most of the names that are given to the lower devatas are actually nothing else but being called as father's son. So all these devatas where we call as Narayana, Vishnu, when we look at them in Nirguna Nirakara Swarupa, their names and their dimensions are of a completely different nature. But the same when they're described into Saguna Brahma, then in that time we use the same names but with a restricted factal functionality. That is the only difference. When Shiva in a restricted functionality is being thought about, then we talk of it as a Devata. But Shiva in unrestricted functionality means Nirguna Nirakara, then he's Mahayogi. Hari Om.
Hari Om. And one allied question, if nobody's asking, is when you mentioned that all these devas are also jivas, right? So I presume human beings with a higher consciousness.
Absolutely.
So are these people, so is there just one person who assumes that role forever? Or what about, all the other human beings who are coming in and practicing, and other, yogis on the path? Do they assume these positions, or is it only
It depends.
symbolically held by one person?
It depends on whether whether your travel or the journey stops at that particular point or moves forward. If you remember in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, we were talking about Savitarka, Savichara, Sasmita, Sananda. All these different samadhis that we are talking is basically transcending each level of consciousness. Even Devata level of consciousness is transcended by the yogi. He goes beyond that. That is the reason why in Puranas it is normally written that so-and-so Rishi was doing the penance and Indra was frightened. This is a very common theme in Puranas. What is the meaning of it? The meaning is he is now going to go beyond me in the consciousness. Naturally, I'll be subservient to him. So if you look at the Arthavad, if you take out from that Purana, what it means is the yogi keeps getting exalted consciousness. Either he can get stuck there. He can get stuck there. Videha Deva, we have already studied Videha Deva or Prakruti Laya. Prakruti Laya gets stuck at the level of Prakruti. Imagine you become Akash and be there. Because even Akasha requires redemption after Pralaya, not before. Akasha as a tattva, Akasha as the highest manifestation of consciousness also is within space and time. So that is why it depends on where the yogi stops. That is why Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was to call Vivekananda as one of the exceptional miracle. Ramakrishna was exceptional miracle. Why? Because they had the ability to transcend everything, be Parabrahma, and yet come into Saguna Brahma, and yet become a human being. कभी इस घर में आ बैठे, कभी उस घर में आ बैठे. ना बका मेरी, ना फना मेरी, मुझे ए शक्ल में ना ढूंढियो. मैं किसी का हुस्न ख्याल हूं. I am nothing else but the Shakti of the Parabrahma. Don't try to see me in some shape or form, because I sometimes sit in this house, I sometimes sit in that house. That is how a Sufi describes this. Hariyo.
Hariyo.
Hariom, Sanjay ji, one question. This Brahma Sutra has been, written by Shankaracharya, and then it has been, as you were explaining, it was further expounded and some clarifications, etc. So Shankaracharya ji has given everything which was till that time, all the Upanishads which have been written on. Based on that, this book of Brahma Sutra has been written. Is that the right understanding, or because? Or is it that after Shankaracharya there have been no further additions to the Upanishad world?
In the terms of chronology, there have been additions of in Upanishads after Shankaracharya, but the Upanishads that are described in Brahma Sutra, by the way, Brahma Sutra is written by Vyasa Muni, not Shankaracharya, commented by Shankaracharya. Bhashya is by Shankaracharya. Although precisely who is the author of Brahma Sutra is not known, but generally it is ascribed to be Vyasa Muni. That is why when Shankaracharya was writing the Bhashyam on this, it is said that Vyasa Muni in the form of an old man is to sit and listen to what he was writing, and he appreciated it. So when whatever has been commented in Shankaracharya Bhashyam on Brahma Sutra is based on the Upanishads available till then, Chandogya being one of the oldest, Taittiriya being oldest, Shatapatha Brahmana being the oldest, these are commonly commented upon, one. And second, amongst Upanishads also, some of the Upanishads are apparently seen to be much closer to the ultimate reality. So those are picked up from there, because the confusion there can create confusion in the mind of a sadhaka, because that serious sadhaka who has done so many births of penances is now taking the final flight. So he should not have any misdirection. That is the purpose of Brahma Sutra. Hari.